The Goat House is back, and the Senior Bowl is back, and let me tell you, it is loaded with talent this year. Excited to watch these guys all week long. I'm going to break down the prospects you need to keep an eye out for, from the best players all the way down to the sleeper prospects, and we'll talk about the guys that I'm predicting to be the biggest winners this week. Let's take a look. The absolute best prospects at the Senior Bowl, in my opinion. Let's start with the Florida State corner, Azareye'h, who I got the chance of watching his tape this weekend, and I am impressed. I'm a huge fan of his game, and I'm kind of disappointed I didn't watch more of Florida State. I mean, it was a disastrous year. I'm a little disappointed I didn't watch the film earlier because I haven't been including him in the first round of recent mock drafts, and this guy is absolutely a first-round pick, a first-round corner. I'll take it a step further. I think he will challenge Will Johnson for that top cornerback spot, which is maybe sounds crazy, but he is so good at man coverage, so physical, so good at press. The smooth movement, being able to open the hips, run with anybody. And, I mean, again, you love that he's already polished in man coverage. You wish, there was a little bit more zone reps. Florida State runs a ton of man. Renardo Green, really good man coverage quarter Florida State last year, drafted by the Niners. He played very well for them this year. And I think Thomas is actually much, as good as Green was, is much better prospect. So that's how much I think I like Thomas and how much he'll rise up the board here. Couple Texas A&M guys, Nick Scourton, big-time pass rusher from Purdue and then AM last year. He's got to be a first-round lock. Shemar Stewart, big, physical bully of a pass rusher. Don't really see guys like this anymore. More of an old-school guy, but with a little juice to him. You wish there was more production, but he could light it up in practice this week. For him, he's a guy that can rise up boards. Armand Membou, we started hyping up a little bit recently. Big-time tackle from Missouri. He could definitely make some money this week. Josh Connerly's been getting some buzz. Is he a first-round lock? Maybe not a lock, but he's been, people could argue that. Should go like late first at the latest. Walter Nolan, former big-time recruit. Really helped Ole Miss's defense this year. Mike Green's been getting a lot of buzz lately because of his production, but the athleticism, the speed, the explosiveness off the edge, and he ended up measuring in or weighing in a little bit heavier than expected, which is good, which he needed. And then Trey Amos, the corner from Ole Miss, formerly with Alabama. We talked about Thomas being a big-time man coverage guy. Amos, same thing, really, really sound in man coverage. That's big for the Senior Bowl. It's about one-on-one drills. It's all man coverage. Zone does not matter in that. And receivers should win those reps. So I'm not one of those people that's going to make a big deal about receivers in those one-on-ones. I'm going to make a big deal about corners if they lock down a receiver. But these guys that are very familiar, very good in man coverage, I'd watch out for them. And I listed here some guys that are big-time prospects that are not participating because their seasons went a little bit longer. And we'll have more Senior Bowl content every year on Saturday after the game. I do the big-time risers. We'll talk about NFL fits as well and what round, what pick they could go. And then we'll do a mock draft early next week after the Senior Bowl game. But here are some potential first-round prospects, guys that could sneak into first if they have big outings at the Senior Bowl. Watch out for them to possibly sneak in the first. Start with TJ Sanders, defensive tackle of South Carolina, and he's aligned in several different spots across the defensive line, but he has a fantastic tape as well, and I think he can light it up in one-on-one in the practices there at the Senior Bowl, and then maybe could sneak in the late first round. Jaxson Dart, I'm a fan of. I've been a fan of him for a bit. The Ole Miss quarterback, I mean, he's got arm talent, and he's athletic. He's tough, physical. He can run, escape pressure when he needs to. I mean, sometimes he struggled against the heavy pressure teams, the really good defenses that have exotic looks, different blitzes. But I'm surprised he's not being talked about a bit more. Like, people acting like he's far from the top two quarterbacks. I see potential here. It's a guy you have to sit. You're going to have to sit because that Lane Kiffin offense is much different than any NFL offense, but he has the tools to work out. I think it's different than Matt Corral, who I was probably lower on than anyone, and now Dart, I'm the opposite. I'm probably higher on than anyone, but he needs to have a good Senior Bowl outing. So get him a little uncomfortable away from that Lane Kiffin offense, that system, see how he performs in practice in the game. Is a huge, huge week for Jaxson Dart. Ariante Aseri from Minnesota. I've been getting a little bit of late first-round buzz. If he has a good outing, of course, can sneak up there. And then you got a couple Ole Miss pass rushers. A lot of Ole Miss guys that are very talented that are probably second-round picks, but with good outings, they can sneak in the first round, but more likely day two picks. Landon Jackson's kind of a similar thing. Very productive from Arkansas. more likely a day 2 pick. With a ridiculous outing, he could sneak in there. Deion Walker from Kentucky, just a massive, massive dude. It's going to appeal to some coaches. Like, I want to work with that guy. That it's kind of a rare type guy that's that big, could move like that. So could he have a good outing and just sneak up in there? Jalen Milroe, to me, is not a first-round pick. He has a lot to work on. Definitely has to sip. The passing, the pre-snap adjustments in the passing just isn't there. But he's a bigger dude, built, obviously, super strong arm, and can move. So everyone's dying to work with this kid. But how early do you take him? But if teams do not select quarterbacks in the second round. They rarely do it. And I feel like only one over the course of the last several years has kind of worked out, and that's Jalen Hurts. So I think teams either maybe take a shot at Milroe late first. I think it's a reach, but or other than that, it'd be a third-round pick. But, if he has a monster outing throwing the ball at Senior Bowl practices, boom, he might be a first-round pick. I'm not counting on it. I think Dart is a much better prospect than him, but because he's a quarterback and because he has some wow tools, that's definitely a guy we have to keep an eye out for here for, a team to kind of get desperate for a quarterback. Very solid day 2 prospects, and this is where the Senior Bowl is big time. We already talked about a lot of good prospects, but some of those guys are day 2 that we just talked about, but here's a lot more, and there's even more than this. These are the guys that I kind of just wanted to highlight. Restrepo, I'm a big fan of. He's going to be a very safe draft pick as a slot receiver. He's a slot receiver that gets open and makes incredible catches, so I think he'd have a good outing there. Mason Taylor, high upside tight end. The tight end class is good. Tight end class of the Senior Bowl is very good. Mason Taylor has a ton of upside. Gunnar Helm, I think, would be a safe tight end pick. He did a very good job for Texas this year. Another LSU player, Emory Jones, was a very solid offensive line for them. Possibly could be a second-round pick. Marcus Embo, very quick-footed offensive tackle from Purdue. Jared Wilson's a very safe pick at center from Georgia. He really stood out. The center class is, I got to look into it a little bit more, but it's fairly weak. I think Wilson really stands out from the rest. Demetrius Knight Jr. could be not enough chatter around him, not enough chatter around linebackers in general. It just seems to be just Campbell from Alabama, but Knight Jr. seems to me, based off the tape, definitely have to watch more, could be in that conversation for top linebacker. Maxwell Harrison, we saw, Kentucky corners seem to be doing pretty well. Andrew Phillips last year, the physicality from these guys getting downhill. Harrison, maybe a little better coverage downfield compared to Phillips, who had a really good rookie year for the Giants. Jacob Parrish, a little undersized, but he had a really good tape from Kansas State, played very well. And a couple safeties, Makuba from Texas, formerly with Clemson, and then Billy Bowman Jr. I like the way he gets downhill as well, but Makuba could be a slot guy or a safety, but these are some day 2 prospects. Should be sure thing day 2 prospects. Can't rule out some of them maybe sneaking late first, but guys that could really stand out at the Senior Bowl. There are a ton of good sleeper prospects at the Senior Bowl, but here are the ones that are really catching my eye, guys that you should watch for, maybe to have good outings. Starting with a quarterback from Louisville, Tyler Shuck, actually formerly with Oregon, and he was getting a lot of hype before he went in there, at Oregon, or right when he was coming in. Like, could he be the next Justin Herbert? Didn't really work out. Went to Texas Tech. There were some injuries involved along the way, and was fairly solid for Louisville. He has an arm. He's a solid pocket passer. Could have a good outing and make himself some money there in terms of his draft stock. And then Woody Marks, running back from USC, formerly at Mississippi State, really shifty, can catch the ball in the backfield very well. Could look good in the practices. Jalen Noel, receiver from Iowa State. Iowa State had 2 really solid receivers. Higgins is known as the better one. No, I watch out for Noel. I think he actually could have a better NFL career. He's a really, really good route runner, so watch out for him. Harold Fannin Jr., how much of a sleeper is he with all the receiving production he had? So maybe not a huge sleeper, but smaller school guy. Should be, look pretty good in both the practice and the games. Darius Alexander, Toledo defensive tackle. Really caught my eye watching him just during the year, watching a lot of MAC football, especially when it started going on earlier in the week. You got nothing else to watch but some action. Man, he was an absolute disruptor, so big fan of him. Joshua Farmer, again, Florida State guy is kind of not being talked about enough right now just because how disappointing the team was. But Farmer was very solid. We saw Braden Fisk last year, what he did this year. Florida State guy last year. Omar, Norman Lott. the defensive tackle class is loaded for the big name guys, but there's some sleeper guys like this. Was really stout for Tennessee up front. Josiah Stewart really caught my eye during the year. Michigan's defensive front was really good. I like his explosive get off. Could do some damage in one-on-ones. And then Bilal Cohn, the cornerback from Western Michigan. Yeah, again, watching some MAC football. MAC football was really good this year too. They were sneaky. We saw it earlier in the year, almost upsetting teams, but Cohn really stood out as well. So there's some sleeper guys that kind of caught my eye during the year. Some of them watching film, haven't really got around to the day two, all the day 2, day 3 guys quite yet, obviously, but some guys to watch here. Now I'll go ahead and predict who will be the biggest risers, and time will tell. The practices and the game will tell. And on Saturday, like we do every year after the game, I will talk about the biggest winners, how they improve their stock, and which teams they fit. Maybe one of my favorite parts of the draft process is the Senior Bowl and just seeing the buzz on these guys. It happens after even day 1 of the practices, where the teams are saying, yeah, media needs to be way higher than that guy. That guy's lighting it up. He might be a first-round pick. I love that stuff so much. So I'll go ahead and predict who those guys will be. Shemar Stewart, kind of known as a first-round pick. Some people talking second round. I definitely think he's going to go in the first round. This is a big body, physical guy that bullies offensive tackles. People don't really realize it right now, because his production was very underwhelming, and it definitely needs to be better. But look at Chop Robinson last year, totally different type of pass rusher, but production's not everything. Sack numbers isn't everything, but this guy disrupted plays. He blew up plays and created for his teammates. So I'm just imagining him one-on-one, that freaky size plus athleticism profile that he has, just one-on-ones or just the scrimmages at practice, just blowing plays up, and everyone's going to go, whoa. Remember Darius Robinson last year? I think this guy could be that and some. So that's my number one that I'm watching. Not the best player, maybe, but the number one guy that I watch for that. He's got to have a good week, but he can wow some people. And Azareye'h Thomas, I hyped up at the beginning of this video. I mean, he's going to light it up in man coverage reps. This guy's an absolute stud. To me, he's a first-round pick. We're going to be hearing a lot more than that after this week. Armand Membou finally has been getting a little bit of buzz this last week. I put him in the first round in my last 2 mocks, so I'm excited about the buzz he's getting. His tape is just good. You just look at it, it's just straight up good. The way he played the right tackle position, I think we're gonna see more of that, hear more of it this week. Jaxson Dart, I'm a fan. It's a big week for him. Him and Jalen Milroe, massive weeks. It's gonna be a boomer bust week. I'm gonna bank on him, his arm talent, his athleticism. Just ability to make clutch plays, and he'll show out at the Senior Bowl practices here. We talked about Jalen Noel, receiver from Iowa State. He caught my eye during the year. During the year, I'm like, yeah, Higgins is their best receiver. That's college football. What about the NFL? Just a kind of a bold take that Noel might be the better Iowa State receiver. I love his route running ability. You could put him in the slot, you could put him outside, more likely the slot, but he can run routes. That's what really shows out at the Senior Bowl. Watch for him. Darius Alexander, we talked about him a little bit already. He caught my eye during the year, just really blowing up plays, disrupting plays. A couple of MAC guys here, too. Bilal Cohn. These are just straight-up guys that caught my eye during the year, guys that I didn't know about before the year. So I put them on here. And I'll tell you what, I said it before, MAC football was serious this year. I mean, they're usually underrated, but there was some serious talent in that conference this year. They were really good. So there's a couple guys that are better than people think. And we saw Quinyon Mitchell really and he was a well-known guy before that, but he really showed out the Senior Bowl last year. He came from Toledo too. Look at Alexander, but I'm looking for somebody from the MAC. At least one guy from the MAC is going to light it up, and everyone's going to go, okay. But yeah, mainly I want to throw some sleepers in there. So those last couple guys are more of the sleepers, but Stewart, Thomas, Dart, those are probably the 3 guys Milroe, I'm really watching this week. So those guys got to have big weeks. Well, I don't know if Thomas necessarily has to have the big week, but guys like Stewart, we said it, Stewart, Dart, Milroe, these guys got to come out and show up. But let me know in the comments who your favorite prospects are in the Senior Bowl, guys that aren't being talked about enough, or guys that you think will show out and be on the rise this week at the Senior Bowl. Exciting times here. And again, we'll have multiple videos covering the Senior Bowl. We'll have multiple draft and free agency videos throughout the week. We already have some up on the channel. We're in off-season mode. It's a beautiful time of the year. Football never stops here at the Goat House, so join us, like, subscribe, turn notifications on. But that'll do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.